This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details. Fan.
Join from more tropical climes beginning at about 5:30. A lot of Minnesota Wild discussion. They're back in action tonight, correct?
They
On the
are.
road. They start the road. It's a 5-game road trip.
Against Dallas tonight.
Ben Leber is with us now via the Connecticut Water Systems Hotline. He joins us weekly thanks to our good friends at the Sierra, and his especially, Sierra Nevada Brewing Company. I got an interesting toss-up question from a texter who wants to know who you think, as of today, is the best team in the National Football League.
Ooh, that's a good question. Wow. I mean, could it be the Colts? I mean, dare we say the Colts or the Seahawks? I mean, they can run the football and they can throw the ball, and their defenses are playing well. So I know it's kind of obscure to think at the beginning of the season that we would automatically say the Eagles or the Chiefs or something like that. But I think the way that both of those teams can find some balance, I would say probably the Colts and Seahawks.
I'll give you a nugget on the Colts that got my attention a little bit because, as you say, they're off to a great start. They have lost one game. They're 5-1. I'm going to give you their scoring totals so far this year: 33, 29, 41, 20, 40, and 31. And that allegedly is, through 6 games, the most points, total points, that the Colts have scored in team history. And they've had, obviously, Peyton Manning, a couple of good quarterbacks. So they are, I don't know. Again, is it sustainable? You look at who they played, a little up and down there. You know, there's Tennessee in there. Maybe the best team they've played, they lost to. That's the Rams. But we got to say that our guy, who maybe did pick up some things from the Whisperer here, Danny Dimes, has been outstanding for them. He's been unbelievable.
I know, and I'm sure that you saw that quote that he was talking about his time here, his short time here in Minnesota. Last week he was talking about it, and he just basically said, I thought I was watching and preparing the way a pro should when he was with New York, but come to find out the way that they do things here in Minnesota, he's like, it just kind of took my preparation to a whole nother level. The way they talked in meetings, the way they quizzed each other, the way that they watched film. And so it's wild to think that, we give so much credit to the staff for what these guys are doing on the field, but I guess, we haven't dove that deeply in what they do differently than other teams, kind of behind the scenes.
Under the oddest injury department, we have to mention, are you aware of the injury that Anthony Richardson, the guy that Jones beat out to be the starting quarterback this year, his latest injury?
Yeah, and let me just be real honest. Whenever I use those elastibands or whatever they are,
yes,
that is something that I've always been worried about. That
interesting.
Like, even though it's never happened to me. Well, some of the cheapo elastibands, they have broken on me before, but just doing maybe a leg exercise or something, so it never hurt. But yeah, whenever you're pulling that thing towards your face, I'm kind of closing my eyes. I hope this thing doesn't snap and hit me in the eye like it did.
It's well, let's remind folks who maybe don't know the story. He suffers an orbital fracture to his face in a pregame incident. So the way it's been described, a pole that he had affixed an elastic stretch band to snapped during what is, I guess, his usual pregame routine, and as a result, the pole then smashes into his face, as I understand it. I mean, It sounds bizarre. I guess the bands are used by all the Colts quarterbacks in the same manner before all practices and games, often tied to the goalposts. In this case, I think the incident occurred in the locker room where the stretching routine sometimes takes place as well. Sounds about as freaky as you can get.
Yeah, it really does. And I was before I heard that, I didn't know that part of the detail about the post, but in my mind, because I knew that the elastic band was not going to cause a fracture. I mean, I've always thought the elastic band would just like hit me in the eye and hurt my eyeball. But I thought it was like, a lot of times they're kind of fastened with a carabiner or something like that. So when I heard that it had something to do with the elastic band, I was like, oh, well, maybe like the carabiner broke off or something, and it was a metal clip that hit him. But I mean, I don't know how a piece of the post or whatever it was affixed to. I don't know how that comes apart. But yeah, it's wild, and obviously, the injury that they had to the other player in pregame as well.
Yeah, that's right.
What is happening over there?
Very strange. The weirdest injury Ben Leber, or freakiest injury Ben Leber ever suffered at any level?
Man, nothing.
Nothing? Okay.
Nothing freakish, really. Everything was kind of just like, really football related. I mean, we've all had those instances where we're like, oh my gosh, I'm just a clumsy fool.
Yeah,
but
right.
Never to the point where I was ever deemed injured, So no, I wish I had a crazy story for you.
Yeah, that's all right. We'll get one from, maybe you can concoct one for the next time we talk. All right. So, the number one story this week is going to be who ends up starting a quarterback. I believe it's likely Wentz is going to start, and I think it's going to be not because the Vikings, especially KOC, does not want to bring JJ back, but because I think he's going to adhere to the mantra of, I got to see full participation and, a full week of the work I expect from the starting quarterback. And he's back, I think. But to me, it feels like they're still trying to ease him back to be sure. So I think it's likely that Wentz is going to start. What do you think?
I mean, the closer that we get to this game and the more they're coming out of their bye week, and we're still hearing the same, I think, very particular terminology being used to assess our quarterback situation. I mean, it definitely feels like they're cushioning the blow for the idea that Wentz is going to be the starter, even though, he said that both of them are banged up.
That's
Wentz
true.
With the shoulder injury, and, he's got to come back to practice and prove that he can take every rep in practice and see how he looks too. But, we've kind of heard this whole phrasing of like, well, we need to see him play a full week of practice, and it's got to look the way we want it to look. It does seem like to me that they're sort of massaging this idea of like, well, see, we said, he's got to have a full week and he's just not quite ready. And then, this is something that Meat Sauce and I talked about as well. And, he brought up a great point with the short week afterwards. It's like, well, if you consider a full week of practice the best way to get ready for a game, then obviously the game against the Chargers, if JJ is not playing in this game against the Eagles, well, then most likely he's not going to play against the Chargers.
I agree.
That's not even a full week of practice, and really, it's not even, I think, real game-like reps during that shortened week. I'm
with you. I feel strongly whoever starts this game will start the next one, and I think even more strongly if the Vikings win, if it's Wentz and they win and he's good to very good, I don't think there's any way that you don't start him the next game. That to me, Seifert and I were talking about this earlier today. And he thinks, and I agree with this, that really you got 2 more weeks to play with this under these circumstances. And then it's after that, it's at that point, it's either going to be, it's JJ's team, we're back to it, or then it does get a little bit funky that given the scheduling quirk and given the fact that he's still not, has not participated fully in anything. I mean, you heard the head coach, I think it was yesterday, say, guys had 1 practice since the Bears game. And that, to me, was another emphasis on his part, as if to say, well, come on, nobody's being realistic here. I'm not going to just throw him to the wolves out here. So I think that's when, after the Chargers game, because then you got a long gap, right? Because it's a Thursday night game until your next game. That, to me, is where the rubber's going to meet the road on ultimately who's going to be the starting quarterback for this team the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think, you and Kevin talked about is completely accurate. I mean, yes, there are circumstances that we have to account for here, but it is, I don't know. I guess for me, it's a little, it's interesting, I think, is the generic term. I mean, I'm curious about what's really going on. It feels like to me that there's like an opening to question what's going on behind the scenes. And I think that, this organization has given us nothing but, truthful stuff about any sort of injury or situation. So I don't think that they're purposely being like deceitful, but, I think it's fair to question, like, okay, what's up with the terminology? What's up with the, why do we feel like, there was so much love and adoration for JJ and what was going on in the off season. We know that he didn't play great for 2 games. And now we know that there's an ankle injury, but I think everybody again speculates that the ankle injury is not that severe.
Right.
That, if you were a solid starter for 17 games the year before and you suffered the same injury, would you take the same approach of waiting until you're 100% and had a full week of practice to be ready? I don't know. Obviously we're not in that situation, but it makes me think that, it's an awfully overprotective approach, it sounds like. And I just kind of want to know, like, what the real reason is.
That's fair to say. I think you're right. Based on when you factor in, as you mentioned, the buildup and all the things that were said and allegedly believed in the offseason as well, I think that's more than fair. Toss up Eagles question, a team that has lost its last 2 games after winning its first 4, not even particularly competitive against the Giants after blowing a fourth quarter lead against the Broncos. Is this the best time to face the Eagles or the worst?
Well, I mean, I suppose it's probably the best time. I mean, if you flip it the other way, do you want to catch them on a heater where they've won 5 in a row and they're feeling themselves and you're like, oh boy, like this just seems like an unstoppable freight train coming at us. So no, I think this is a good time to get them. They're banged up on the defensive front. We all know the news about Zadarius Smith, his abrupt retirement. They were hurting. Obviously, the reason they brought him in is because they were lacking some edge pressure. And now they're really going to be lacking for premier pass rushers on the outside. They've got some injuries on the inside part of the defensive line as well. And that really was their calling card. Last year, the way that those guys played up front, I mean, that really helped to propel them into the Super Bowl. And it made their defense so dominant. And now you're getting this opportunity where opposing quarterbacks are getting a lot more time in the pocket. They have some injuries on the corner spot as well. The reserves are not playing up to their standards. And so they're kind of a hot mess defense. And then, it's widely been reported about the disgruntled receivers that they have.
Yeah.
And if you watch the games, you're watching Jalen Hurts miss open targets, especially down the field. Their hit percentage on deep balls has not been good this year. They have a new offensive coordinator that a lot of Eagles fans feel like he didn't deserve that role, especially with this type of team. They kind of feel like you handed the keys over to a 16-year-old new driver, and it's the keys to a Lamborghini. And it's like, well, what are you doing? Like, we know that you can probably drive, but this is a high-performance vehicle. And you watch some of the play sequencing, and a lot of people question, like, yeah, you might be able to call a play in practice and build a script, but when it gets hot and heavy in the game, it seems like he sort of loses the rhythm. So they got a lot going on over there, and I would say this is a good time to hit them.
They got an excellent running back who has not had an excellent season, right? And the assumption is they're going to try to challenge the Vikings because the Vikings have not been particularly good against the run compared to what they can be at their best, certainly, and what they were as recently as last season. What's your best theory? Do you view it as, look, we got a couple of obviously important linebackers out that hopefully are heading now closer to returning, and that has changed everything? Is it more stuff that's happening at the line of scrimmage in terms of the ground game, the difficulty handling the ground game in several games this season?
Well, I think every coach will probably tell you that stopping the run is not just one guy. I mean, you do have to have certain gap fits and you've got to be sound in those areas. And so, it's never about one guy, but, getting a guy like Blake Cashman back, if he does play this Sunday, I think it does give you just a little bit different dynamic. I think he's slightly taller, slightly longer. I think he does a little bit better job of getting off blocks and attacking the run game. And so, that will help. But, I've seen this defensive line at times just get flat out pushed back. And I've seen linebackers kind of get swallowed up because they're getting too much of their own defensive linemen in their lap. And so I think that, we have to penetrate better. It's certainly going to be a huge test to stop Saquon. And they feel like on the other side that they haven't been using him as much. So all of a sudden now, do you have to prepare for him to get 25 to 30 carries this game, plus some passes thrown away? I don't know how this coordinator is going to respond to all this press this negative press that he's getting about not using Saquon. So I'd buckle up. I'd get my chin strap ready. You know that this is an offensive line, even though they're kind of beat up. They're going to get downhill on you. And you certainly, after that Falcons game, you cannot let this offense come in here and get right and run for 200 yards on the ground.
I asked Kevin this. I'll ask you as well. Another NFC North team played last night. The Bears came from behind and at the buzzer, and they get a great gift, a late fumble in the rain. And then they, to their credit, they go right down the field basically on the ground. And they're able to kill the clock and set up for a game-winning field goal at the buzzer against the former 49ers kicker who's quite maligned out there. And he'd had one blocked earlier in the game, and he kicks a shorter field goal to win the game. So you got no below 500 teams in this division. I think we all thought it was going to be a deep division. I'm still not sure I trust the Bears yet, although maybe they are starting. They've won 3 in a row, and they've got New Orleans at home next week, so they got a good shot at 4 in a row. How do you view, is there any, significant difference between how you view this division before the season began and what you have seen within the division so far?
The way it's sort of writing itself, it's really no surprise. Detroit, new coordinators, you knew it was going to take a couple weeks for them to get their feet underneath them, and it certainly seems like they have. And with Ben Johnson, you expected their offense, again, same thing, like maybe be a little bit rocky to start until they figure out what Caleb does really well and, how they can best use their pieces. I think the surprise was how fast Green Bay started the season. But again, I think they're kind of regressing back just a little bit, just a touch, to a point now where it is going to be a highly, highly competitive division. And I don't think that there's any clear-cut, true, winner right now that's playing the best ball. I think Detroit's record, obviously, they love that, but they definitely have some holes in their game. And I definitely think that any one of the 3 teams could end up on top. That's sort of the beauty of it, I guess. The a lot of the quarterback discussion that we've had going back to the start of the show was playing off of a comment from KOC. I think he said this yesterday, and he was talking about what McCarthy has done in his off time when he has not been well enough to play or even to be a big part of practice. So I guess that changed during the bye week. And O'Connell said regarding what McCarthy watched from Wentz, his 3-week stint as the QB, one of the things he took away from watching Carson play was the power of completions that don't always go to the first or second progression. Might be TJ helping out on a protection, critical 12-yard gain, blah, 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 blah. So from your perspective here, what's the message that's being delivered there by the head coach? Is it, all right, I'm a home run guy, and I love the home run, and I like zinging the ball over the place, but what I really need right now, maybe in part because my offensive line is still not quite healthy and at times has been a mess with backup players, is I don't care if it doesn't look very – if we're boring the other team to death with 5 and 7 yard passes, I'm fine with that a while, and that's sort of whenever McCarthy gets back, he wants McCarthy to understand as well. What did you make of it? I think that's really smart coaching because you look at and I don't blame McCarthy for for thinking that, well, I'm in a big play offense. I mean, every quarterback that has played under KOC has had the ability and shown the ability to throw the deep ball and get it down the field. And that's kind of what our MO is. And you have a whole year watching Sam Darnold do that, and you're like, dang, I mean, if that's the way he wants it to look, then doggone it, I'm going to try to please the coach and try to do those things. But I think that we've seen with Wentz, whether or not that's just a product of him and his abilities, or it's also a byproduct of having a banged up offensive line, but getting completions, checkdowns are fine. Yep. It is like, yes, it doesn't feel like the offense is winning, but if you're getting 6-7 yards on a check down and you're able to move the chains and not put yourself in 3rd and longs, then that is winning football. And don't forget that you have guys that can run after a catch. And so I understand both sides of it. I understand where JJ's coming from, of just like, okay, this is how it's always looked. I gotta be this guy. And then you're getting out there and you're like, okay, I might be slightly overwhelmed and maybe I'm not as risky right now taking some of those deeper shots and don't trust myself quite yet. Or maybe my offensive line hasn't protected me when I want to take those deep shots. I do need to just understand that there's always going to be an outlet, and really understanding, even if the outlet is after your 3rd read, just get to it. Get to your outlet, get to your check down, and learn to live another down. And I think it's smart. We saw our own defense struggle with it with Aaron Rodgers. And again, it might not be sexy. No. It might not be exactly what we want to see and we have seen, but it can win football games.
Well, it's funny because I saw Aikman was talking about this last night. I think the Bears at one point went for 2, and they didn't get the completion. I don't remember what Caleb did, if he threw an incomplete pass or got sacked. I don't even recall what happened in the play. But when Aikman replayed it, he immediately saw the Bears. They've got a rookie running back whose name escapes me, and he flared out to the right. And if Caleb literally throws the ball almost as quickly as he gets it hiked to him, it's 2 points. And it was a reminder to me of often guys are open until they're not. That sometimes if you wait too long, the opening you have is going to disappear. And that's one of those lessons that I think the smart quarterbacks figure out. Even if it doesn't look that cool, because it was going to be a quick flare pass. It wasn't going to look like anything fancy, like Caleb's capable of throwing. But it was the right play, because the running back would have basically walked into the end zone.
Yeah, I mean, as you're talking about that, I think, and I look back at the game-winning touchdown that Jordan Addison had in London, and he wasn't wide open. I mean, it was one of those plays where it had to be bang bang.
Yes.
You had to see that corner sit in that sort of cover 2 spot, and they had the right play called against what they hoped was the right defense, and you sort of had to throw him open a little bit. And it's like, right when you see it, just make the decision and throw it. If he hesitates on that route, there's a possibility that the corner recovers and he's able to get a fingertip on that thing and knock the ball away. So I think in the end, you're right. Sometimes it is just the easier throw. It's the quick throw, and letting your guys go make plays.
Yep. No question. Got to trust it. Last item for you today. Are we seeing B-Flow talk today? He was asked a lot about Harrison Smith, and the impression the Jackals got was that we may just see that this isn't just injury, that it may well be that you're just going to see Harrison more likely in nickel than necessarily in the base defense. And I don't think that's illegal. Those things do happen sometimes as players get longer in the tooth. But do you think that's what we're seeing here a little bit? Is that we got some other guys we trust and we still like what Harrison can bring, but maybe that he's not going to be quite as much of a main guy as he's been before?
Yeah, I guess so. I know that he jokingly talked about it in that first game that he came back, and I think he had, something like 15 snaps in that game, and I think he jokingly said, like, yeah, this feels right, like I could do this, the rest of the season. And so, we do see it with a lot of other players. I guess I never expected it, when he made his announcement that he was coming back for another season. And they signed Theo, and I was just like, okay, well, that's obviously just insurance, just because we need safety depth because we lost Bynum. And, none of that to me was a red flag that he was going to be taking significantly less snaps. But if they feel like Theo's doing a great job and he's kind of picking up right where Harrison left off, and if they can get some critical moments and be a playmaker then, why not? I think he's kind of like the Terrence Newman. He's kind of like, I think even Chad Greenway had to go through this a little bit at the end of his career, where he's so valuable from a leadership standpoint in the locker room, and he's a true coach on the field, that it's important to have him on the team. But at the same time, if you can get their best with just 15 to 20 snaps a game, then why not go with that approach?
We'll save the Hop Splash player of the game. We'll bring that back next week because we had no game this week. And we will hopefully chat with you on Monday after Vikings-Eagles. Thanks, man.
We did get a text about the Hop Splash this week.
We did.
To 64686. I'm curious what Ben thinks about this. The texter wants to give it to Andrew Van Ginkel's wife.
Yes.
For tweeting.
We did talk about that with Ben.
About the Love Boat and how any boat plans were canceled by the lifelong Vikings fan from Iowa, given it was a bye week, and she knows the history. So I think she should be nominated for the Hot Splash Player of the Week. What do you think, Ben?
I was going to give it to one of you two, just to be a real suck-up. But, yeah, I think that we can give it to her. That tweet sort of won the week.
It did.
I think everybody was talking about it for days and days. So I thought it was well planned, well timed, well executed. So yeah, she can get the Hop Splash Player of the game.
Yeah, in fact, because I think we talked about it some last week, and we both enjoyed it. But I think obviously what makes it work is who is issuing the tweet, right? It's that's the beauty of it, is that somebody, a wife of one of the players comes up with it, and you go, well, no, that's what makes it, right? It didn't even matter what she said, although the way she laid it out was so deadpan delicious too. She didn't overplay it. She just kind of laid it out. It was beautiful.
Yeah, that's why I think the execution was great.
Yeah,
it was she said just enough, and we were like, aha, I like it. I like what you did there.
The responses from the other wives in the chat who maybe had not known about it, also brilliant. It was brilliant.
It was well done.
So congratulations, Mrs. Van Ginkel. You're the Hop Splash Player of the Week.
Now, again, if you want to pick a week, even when the Vikings have played, and still deliver the award to either one of us, I'm not going to be offended.
We're always eligible.
I'm just going to say that. I mean, you don't feel like you have to give it to a player, especially if you don't think anybody is worthy.
No, I know. You know what? That's a good thing to remember. I mean, you guys are not allergic to compliments. I got to remember that.
That's it. Well, kind of, sort of, but you're right. Have a wonderful rest of the week, my friend. Enjoy the game Sunday noon, as I know you will, and we'll talk next week. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Always good to talk to you guys. Have a good week.
Thanks, Nacho. Ben Leber helping us out as only he can indeed do. Luigi is coming up. Better weather, I'm guessing, where Luigi is. We'll find out in about 10 or 15 minutes.
Fan.
Quickie segment before we chat with Luigi. I will say you would have lost your bet, Gargi, that you had on who's least likely to respond.
Oh.
Tibbs, Isola. Who was the third you had in there?
Signetti.
Yeah, you picked Isola. And he did respond. Unfortunately, we're not going to. It doesn't look like we're going to be able to get him on. I said, "Do you have?" I texted him at about 3:29. Are you still in town? Though I might, as Mitch suggests, still be dead to you. His response at 4:59 was, "What's up?" And I responded, "You have time to pop on." Not tonight, headed to Milwaukee. I could do 9 tonight once I land. Well, that's probably not going to be very practical.
Yeah.
And so we'll just have to maybe do it another time.
But
at least there was contact.
Yep, that's how it starts.
Yeah, so I don't know who's next on the list, but no Tibbs, no Signetti to this point, and no Paul McCartney, according to you, either.
So far. Wow. It's still early in the week.
Yeah. No, there's still time. Oh, I forgot to favorite the...
while you look...
The Mondello guy text to that on that same issue, but go ahead.
While you look for the Mandela guy text, I will remind people that the fan in 2 men and a junk truck.
Thank you.
Want to give you a shot to win bonus bucks. It's our national cash contest. The final keyword of the evening is cash. Very easy. So go to KFAN.com, enter the keyword cash. Thank you. 2 men and a junk truck. A bunch more opportunities tomorrow, but the final keyword tonight is cash.
I got an interesting text regarding the Vikings quarterback saga. We had been talking with Ben Leber about, because I asked him who's the best team in the league right now, and he threw out the Colts.
Or the Seahawks.
Or Seahawks. And by the way, we had either one of those quarterbacks.
We had them both.
And a texter was listening and wrote, Anthony Richardson's was the 5th overall pick. Colts were not afraid to switch to Danny Dimes, just like Vikings shouldn't have been scared of bringing him in to compete with McCarthy. Biggest mistake made in the Ponder era was being scared of bringing in any real quarterback competition and being scared of ruining his confidence, and Spielman forcing his pick to be right, not wanting to admit he made a mistake. I'll agree with him to a point, but not completely. I think it's a little bit apples and oranges in that the Colts have already seen a decent amount of Richardson.
Right, couple years.
We've seen literally 2 games of J.J. McCarthy. Now, there's no guarantee he's going to be great. He may end up being as big a bust as Richardson now appears to be at this point. But I think the Colts were in a different position than the Vikings were because they had more on the Richardson resume from which to perhaps be concerned enough to say, we're opening it up. We're not going to rule him out, but we're opening it up. Now, philosophically, I will tell you that I've always been more of the let's have a competition. And so in a perfect world, let's be clear, it was going to be almost impossible to re-sign Darnold unless you franchise him, which didn't seem like they were willing to go down that road. So if you eliminate him, then you say, well, what's left? Well, Daniel Jones. And the Vikings allegedly offered him $15 million, which he ultimately turned down to take, I believe, $14 million from the Colts. Well, why? Because he knew he was going to have a chance to compete for the job, and the Vikings made it clear that they weren't in the same position that the Colts were about their young phenom or their highly drafted QB. But the assumption that I'll ask it this way. The league has evolved to a place where the Vikings are doing what most teams do. You draft that high, and the guy you had the previous year doesn't exist. He's gone from the equation because that was Darnold, not Danny Dimes, no matter what we think Danny Dimes might have had a chance to be if he'd stayed here, right? He didn't play for us here, right? So the Vikings did what most teams do, which is, all right, we draft that high. We think he's ready. We're not going to bring in any kind of competition. That gets funky. That causes too much indecision. That causes drama. We don't want to do that. My question is, what if somebody came along that said, we don't care how that's been done before. We do think enough of him that we drafted him this high, but we're still not going to be afraid if we happen to be in a circumstance where we already have another quarterback that we can bring back at not a great price, but a better price, obviously, than half the price of Sam Darnold.
Yep.
Then we're going to do it. And we're going to let the chips fall where they may. And we may, at the end, if let's say in that arrangement, Dimes wins the job in training camp, I still don't think that has to mean that we're done with J.J. McCarthy.
Right.
What if somebody tried that? Could they get away with it? I know they'd get pounded to be like, well, you created too much indecision. You can't do it that way. But in the end here, I'm not sure if this necessarily serves the interests of most teams, even though what the Vikings did is exactly what most teams do in this situation.
Trying to think of other situations like that, the one that comes to mind would be when the Seahawks signed Matt Flynn from the Packers for a bunch of money. Remember that?
Yes.
And then drafted Russell Wilson in the third round and figured out by training camp that Wilson was the better guy. And they cut their losses with the high-priced guy, right? Maybe that was easier because they'd only had a third-round pick invested. But
True.
It's not the same thing that you're talking about, but I'm just trying to think if anybody has ever done it that way. Cousins was drafted later than RG3, didn't play originally because RG3 was there and was good.
Yes.
Then he got hurt. And then Cousins had to slide in. I mean, the Falcons just did it. They signed a guy and then drafted the guy, and the guy that was drafted replaced him. But no one's done it the way that you're talking about, I don't think.
No, it raises. I mean, it's good fodder, but again, I think the Colts. Was this Richardson's third year?
I think so.
I don't remember the number. Now,
That
part of it with him is he's been hurt
a lot,
but part of it is I think. I don't even know if all the same regime is still there. I don't think the same coach is still there. But regardless, I think they'd had enough time go by to say we got to consider other options here, and we're not excluding Richardson. We're saying we're opening it up now. That's what we're going to do. We haven't seen enough yet of JJ, even if what we've seen has been troubling. Not nearly enough, I think, to say that the Vikings were in the exact same position going into this season that the Colts were going into this season. But ultimately, Daniel Jones was smart, and his agent, I'm sure, and said,
we want to go play.
We want to go play. You got a much better chance to play there because they have anointed J.J. McCarthy as being the guy. Luigi is coming up next. Lots of hockey conversation. 64686 if you have questions or texts. Come on.
Well, she sneaks around the world from India to Carolina. She's a sticky-fingered filcher from Berlin down to Belize. She'll take you for a ride on a slow boat to China. Tell me, where in the world is
Nanne?
There's only South Korea.
Well, given that it's 49 degrees and drizzling, you sure as hell know he ain't here any longer. He got out of town just in time, although I think we're supposed to head back into the 70s later this week. Luigi is joining us from his, I'm assuming, are you at your abode in Florida as we speak?
Just in time.
That was a song. Very good song. There's no question about that. What are the current conditions where you are?
It was 83. It was very nice today.
83?
Yeah, not too humid. Not humid at all. It was a great day.
Well, I was talking about that much earlier when I was laying out the show lineup. So Florida can be incredibly humid and uncomfortable, obviously, in the middle of summer. So when are the months where you're kind of safe that it still might be 82 degrees, but you're not going to have to deal with the steaminess? Does it start now? Does it start in December?
Yeah.
Or what's the rule of thumb?
It actually starts in October.
Okay.
I think from October right through till even January, your humidity's not bad at all, and temperature's always good. But humidity doesn't really come here full bore till later in the winter, and of course in the spring and summer. But it doesn't get really bad, I don't think. At least I haven't felt it till it starts getting bad maybe mid-May with the humidity. Overall, the winters are really good here. That's one of the good things it's got.
That might be part of the reason you live there as much as you do, or spend as much time there as you do.
Yes, yeah. I just
one of the reasons.
I enjoy a little better weather. I went through snow all my life.
Yeah,
I really do. I watch the local news in Minnesota every night.
Yes.
And during the winter, I have to giggle a lot of times when I see the snow coming down. I know I'm here.
That's so mean. That's just so sick.
I know it is.
We're still
it's
in
funny
it.
I get that. That's sort of depraved pleasure.
Yeah, it's like
I don't know why I get it.
It's a form
Maybe because I so many years in all that snow, and I said, "What am I doing?"
Yeah,
with this?
that's fair. I mean, it's not like you didn't live it for a long time.
No.
But
I've had a place down here for 53 years.
53.
And this just became our residence 3 years ago.
3 years ago, there you go. I think the term is Schadenfreude. You got a lot of Schadenfreude when you see we're dealing with like a blizzard heading our way, a Calcutta Clipper, and you're watching swaying palm trees in the evening, and the temperature is going down to 64 degrees, right?
I think that's a good, accurate description.
That's pretty much the way it works. Texts are already pouring in for you. I love this one. How many games have the Wild played, Louis? 3?
3.
So here's what Nick from Chaska writes. I'd like to know if Louis thinks there are any glaring issues with the Wild after the first 3 games. So I guess he's asking for you to overreact to whatever you have seen or what we have seen to this point when it's just 3 out of this year, 82.
I don't think there are any glaring. There's good and bad parts about it. The bad part was they've hardly scored at 5-5, which I know they will. So the bad part's really not that bad of a part because they have the capability to score more. The good part's the way that power play. They got 8 power play goals already, and I was there the Columbus game before I came down here the next day, and it just that Columbus. Nobody was really sharp, but like Gus might not have been really that sharp. But I have to tell you, there were really a lot of fluky goals, and the Wild had a tremendous amount of shots, and that one they don't win, yet they come back win the other 2. But the best part of the 3 games that I saw, you'll never think what it is.
What's that?
In my mind, it was a play of Urov. They played in one game.
Yeah.
And I was really impressed by him. I am so happy they finally put him in the lineup, and I hope they leave him there because from what I've seen, that kid's going to be able to play and play well, and I think very well. He's got many good things going for him besides his skating and his competitiveness. I really liked his competitiveness, and he's smart enough, and he has got a track record of scoring, so... I was sitting here wondering why didn't he even play the first 2 games?
Yeah, right.
But I'm really happy with the way that fourth line played. Ogren had a good game too. They were with Hinostroza, and I see they sent Height down right away, so they didn't give him a whole lot of chance. But if they think he's not ready, that's perfect. Go down and let yourself get involved in every game, play a lot of hockey, and show that you're growing and going to be a good player, because Height looks like he's a good prospect to me too.
Well, Urov is an example of what we've talked about. You're going to have a couple people ascend, right? That's right. That's the step beyond the stars playing well, and obviously it all revolves around the first line and Kaprizov especially. But there are going to have to be a couple people that have been projected as, options that become more than options, Louis, right? That ascend to a place you go, oh, this guy's got a chance to be a good regular and be a part of our rotation, so to speak.
Well, I agree with that so much so that I'd say don't overcoach him. Don't start nitpicking small mistakes that he makes. Let him grow, and he's gonna make mistakes. Everybody on the ice makes mistakes, yeah. And maybe his might be more costly at the beginning because he might not be as in tune with what you have to do defensively in your own zone. But let this guy grow, and don't let him be playing with an axe over his head where if he makes a mistake, he's out of the lineup.
Great point, yeah.
That's a terrible way to try and develop a youngster. I guarantee you Celebrini, just the star in San Jose, Bedard in Chicago, all these young guys, they weren't great defensively right off the bat, and it was going to take them time to get there. But when they got the kind of skill that they've shown to be drafted that high, and they are competitive and they are working hard at it, let them grow.
100%. A great point. The Wild are in Dallas tonight. I think that's a 7:30. Or is it 8:30?
No, it's 8:30.
You're right. 8:30 Central. You're right.
Till 9:30 to watch
it. It's game 2 of the ESPN doubleheader, I'm assuming, because it looks like ESPN, and of course all the action right here on the Fan pregame show, either 8:15 or 8 o'clock, depending on how hard Fallness wants to work. So when do you got games? You got more games. When are you picking up? Are you picking up games on this road trip? Or
I leave tomorrow. I go and meet him in Washington. So
gotcha.
I do Washington Friday, Philly Saturday, Rangers Monday, and Jersey Wednesday.
So you got that's great. So you got a nice 4-game stretch early this year before the team returns Saturday, October 25 to take on Utah. In fact, when they come back, they've got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got them with a 6-game homestand after the 5-game road trip. So we'll see how that what they look like when they indeed come back. What do you? I don't know how much you were able to see of the game last night.
Yeah.
Because I didn't get to see the third period. How did we blow the 3-goal lead? What happened?
Wallstead was really very good in net. We gave up a shorthanded goal too, but the real problem was right off the bat in the third period, we had a 3-goal lead, and it didn't seem that we played with the same kind of offensive thinking that we played earlier. We were not quite sitting back, but not really forechecking as strong as we should. And I'll tell you, LA came out with fire. They were down 3-0, but the Wild had been out shooting them pretty well. By the end of it, I think LA probably went ahead and shots on goal. They really took over the third period, and the more they took over, we had the Wild had a lot of problems in the third period compared to the other two, moving the puck out of the zone. They were just trying almost like hoper passes and dump outs rather than moving their feet and making some short passes and coming out. You get to the point. I hate watching interviews a lot of times in these hockey games because not only in the Wild game, but I watched other games here the other night. And every game I see, it's all, we just got to put the puck in deep and go to work. Put the puck in deep and go to work. Well, LA didn't put the puck in deep and go to work. They had a lot of puck control, and that's what teams are tending to forget right now. They're so in tune with the fact that everybody thinks you got to put it deep, put pressure on them, go to work. Well, sometimes keep the puck and make some plays.
Sure, good point.
Get control of the zone and have control in there instead of dump and chase and dump and chase. The best teams in hockey can really handle the puck. You see Connor McDavid. Does he come up and just dump it in and go to work? No, he comes in that zone with control of that puck and he makes plays. And I think the teams get a little caught up in the game when they get ahead, and especially when it gets in the third period later in the game, they start thinking, we got to dump it in, you get the pressure off. Well, if you have control of the puck more, once you get it, you're going to be killing clock, you're going to keep possession, you're not going to allow them to get the opportunities to go around and score so easily. And I just think Wild got into that a little bit too much last night.
Yeah, it's a great observation. A 651 guy wants to go back to the Kaprizov story, the contract part of it. Here's what he writes, Louis. Maybe I'm a week or two late on this, but why do players play hardball with money like Kirill and then come out and say, well, I really love it here, always wanted to be here? Personally, I think the player is trying to have it both ways when they say that. If they felt that way, wouldn't they sign for a little less, allow for other players to be signed? He wants your thoughts and any examples of the I love it here, but you have to break the bank for me from your days as North Star's general manager.
No, I'll have to tell you this. I wouldn't be on Kaprizov too much because I don't know for a fact, but I will guarantee you what I believe is that Kaprizov says, okay, I'll take 17, because the agent would have pushed him to 18 or 19-1. That's where he could have gone. And he's not, you have to remember, everything is a time factor. It's not like he was breaking the bank. He was just ahead of the curve to where the cap is going. And he hasn't got as much loyalty to Minnesota as other guys might have. Mm-hmm. The Russians really don't just go to a place and say, okay, I'm staying here at all costs. They don't stay around the U.S. and America as much as the other nationalities did. And if they do, it's usually two places, either Florida or New York. And so when they're playing and they're just going to sign a contract, they lean heavily on that agent. And the agent's sitting there, and he just wants to break the bank. So you tell everybody else, look what I got Kaprizov. I want, as he goes after younger guys to be in his stable, you know. And look what I got. You want somebody to get the money, I'll fight for you. And when I was managing the North Stars, no, I didn't have anybody who came to me and says, well, I'll stay here for less. And I could understand why. I mean, I wasn't going to overpay him anyway, so they probably
it wouldn't have mattered.
We had a different situation, and we didn't have free agency, so I had the hammer. Now the players have the hammer. That's the big difference.
That's a huge difference. You're 100% right.
I was the only guy. and I said that, I was the only guy that I know of in the NHL at that time or since that time that had in his contract, I would make $10,000 more if I played anywhere else except with the North Stars. I got a raise because I only wanted to stay in Minnesota.
That. Yeah, there it is.
And you could do it. I was able to do it at that time. No one that I know has ever come up with that.
No, that's a classic for sure.
Yeah.
Tom from Savage writes, I feel Trenton is night and day better than last year. Am I imagining that?
I think so. I don't think he's night and day better. I think he's what I liked about him this far is he's controlling the puck more than he did last year. The gentleman's right in saying that he looks better because he does. Last year he was more in getting rid of the puck and not making plays, and I think he's got more confidence with the puck now. But it's not like you're 3 mountains higher or something. He is better than last year, but I think it's because he seems to have more confidence when he has the puck rather than just getting rid of it. Can you ask Louis why he believes the power play has been so effective, at least this early? You know, it's again only 3 games, but that was a bit of an issue a year ago. So what are we seeing? What's different so far, at least? Well, they're getting very good net front play to screenshots, and they were getting it before, but it just seems like they've been just perfect position this year when the shots coming on goal, especially when you look at Kaprizov's goal last game. The game before, they just moved it so quickly, and when you move it quickly, and especially when you're like Kaprizov shooting off the pass so fast and so accurate, that helps. But I have to tell you, this kid is really good offensively. Right now, with the puck, and I'm not hurting anybody by saying it, but he's the best wild defenseman when he gets hold of the puck to make a play or skate it out or something. And what's he, 19, just turned 20, whatever. Yeah. He is so gifted with the puck. He's got a lot to learn defensively, and even he's got to make sure when you're playing with just one defenseman and you're top of the point, sometimes you got to make certain that pass. He does get caught every now and then with trying to pass through people. Not much, but when you look at just basic ability with the puck, skating with the puck, making plays, he's at the top of the class right now.
Man, we got a lot of good texts coming in today in a number of areas. Dave from Rosemont has a Faber question. Louis, is it me, or does it seem as if Faber is a step behind, at least for these first 3 games?
No, you're right. I talked about that last game when I was at it Saturday night when I was there. I said, Faber's just a tick off from where he started before. And since I said that, someone went around the outside on him a bit, and I said, he'll get it all back right away, but it's just, sometimes you got to be just a little sharper, rather mentally when you go in a game. But everybody's gonna, at different times of the year have different levels of play. And I think Faber, he's right in what he felt the same way I felt for 3 games. And not that he's been bad or anything, but he's been such a high level. And I did say to the gentleman sitting with me in the KFAN booth, I said, I think he's going to have to sharpen up because he should be an automatic for the Olympic team. But unless he does, he could hurt himself going for that team. And I know he will. I'm not concerned at all. It's not like he was bad or anything, but he was just a little shy of where he was last year.
Did Louis ever deal with the World Hockey Association? And what are his thoughts on that league? Kelly and Ramsey, I don't think I'm sure it's come up from time to time, the WHA, in our conversations, but I'm not sure recently when it is or even what we talked about. What can you tell us about that?
Well, when the WHA came in, it was 1972. And actually, there was a godsend for all of us in the NHL. And I don't know if you remember Ron Simon. His brother Steve is Secretary of State of Minnesota, but Ron was a very close friend of mine, good friend of mine, and he was a lawyer at the time, but he wasn't an agent yet. Remember, later on he had Herbeck and a few other people.
And Puckett as well, I think,
Yeah, he had a number of others, but I started him off as an agent. And how I started him off, he says to me, Louis, I'm interested in being an agent in hockey. He says, well, you're coming at the right time. He says, why? He says, with the WHA, we're all going to be able to get better offers. So I'm telling you what I'm going to do. I'm going to have the team over to my house. You come over. I'm going to introduce you to the team and see if you can get any clients. And that's when, at that time, nobody had of our team had got any offers, but this is 72 now, and Hull gets a big offer, the $1 million, et cetera. So we didn't have contracts, long-term contracts for the most part. Usually it was 1 year. I fortunately, I signed 3 when I started, but then now my contract's up, and it was another year past that, so we were all in position to get contracts. And he picked up Goldsworthy and Hextall at that time, who became our 2 highest paid players. Essentially, and this is just our team, essentially, we all almost doubled our salary.
Wow.
The WHA when we became free agents then, and the WHA was there. That's
not a bad gig if you can get it.
And Goldie and Hex, I remember this because Goldie got $150,000 at that time, and he probably was at 70,000 maybe at the time, maybe 60, and Hextall got $140, and I remember that. And the reason why I remember because I was also vice president of the Players Association, and it was a couple of years down the line, about 2 years later, that we were going. At the end of the summer, we were going. Oh no, it was 87. It was actually 87 because we were 77. Excuse me.
Yeah,
we were going over to Bermuda from New York. We're going from New York to Bermuda to negotiate with the owners on a new collective bargaining agreement.
Tough spot.
And so it was a great spot. And we had meetings on the boat going across to Eagleton. And there were all these thoughts of, what are we going to ask for? And somebody came up with a bright idea, which wasn't very bright, of course, that we should say, we're going to have 23 players on the roster rather than 20, because we got up to 20 by then. We used to be at 18. And they go around, and Eagle says, okay, if we don't get 23, we'll strike. And he and I almost got in a fist fight in the meeting because I said, there's no way Minnesota North Stars are going on strike for that. And he started arguing with me, and I said, look, I got Bill Goldsworthy, who hasn't basically just graduated from grade school, didn't graduate from high school. He's making $150,000. I'm not putting him on strike for somebody who can't play on our team. That's not right, and I have a couple guys like that are up there that I'm not going to have them sacrifice their salary because somebody can't play for us. We want to get extra player in the roster. And we were screaming and yelling, and all of a sudden Pat Quinn stood up. He said, I'm with Louis. Eddie Johnson stood up. He said, I'm with Louis, and it just killed the thing.
That was the end of it. That's pretty good. That's a good story. Did you ever come close, or did you just use that lever?
I never came close. I just used the lever.
Yeah.
There was no, and of course, if I would have gone, it was going to St. Paul anyway.
That's true. That's a good point.
It didn't matter. I was going anywhere.
That's a long way to go, though. I mean, you're kind of a West Side snob, even though, I mean, I know you don't mind going to St. Paul, but let's face it, you're a West Side guy.
No way. Yeah. I have to tell you, that's the main reason why. Did I ever tell you about when the Wild were coming to Minnesota? Jack Sperling called me up, and he was having a luncheon at the St. Paul Grill with potential investors to join Bob Nagley. He said, can you come and tell them, why they should be investing in the Wild? And so I went over, and Jack was in town for the celebration this weekend, and we talked about this because that was a big thing that happened, and they're all there, and so the luncheon's over, and Jack says I was here to answer any questions and why they could be successful in St. Paul when they were having trouble at the end in Minnesota.
Right.
And I got that question, of course, and I said, as long as I was associated with the North Stars, and I was 23 years, I can't ever recall St. Paul having more than 12% season ticket holders. And I said, the reason why is St. Paul people just never seem to go to Minneapolis for much. Most of St. Paul, they don't. But Minneapolis people have no problem going there. It's like the little brother, big brother. And Minneapolis people go to Orchestra Hall. They go to state tournament. They go to restaurants. And conversely, it's not true the other way. Plus, we had very, very limited support from the corporations in St. Paul. On top of that, I said the two fastest growing suburbs of the state of Minnesota are Woodbury and Egan, and they're affluent. So when you put that all together, you're going to gain all you had from Minneapolis, but you're going to have a huge game around St. Paul. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, that's true. I think we have talked about that before, but it's been a while. On that note, I'll let you go. Are you big dinner tonight, or are you just staying in?
I've already eaten. My wife made gnocchis, and when she makes gnocchis,
that's
I
it.
Never pass them up.
Outstanding.
I got to watch these games.
And now you watch a hockey scout for your help on the analyst job, I should say, on 4 straight games the next 4 games on this trip after tonight.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. After tonight. Correct.
Outstanding. Safe travels, and we will chat with you next week. Thanks, Luigi.
Seems good. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Lou Nanne, brought to you by our good friends, as always, at Kemp's. Kemp's has been a loyal sponsor of the Luigi segment for many years. We appreciate very much, and I know he does too, their participation. Half hour yet to come on the Bumper to Bumper program. I've got some leftover text that might be kind of tantalizing, and we'll cover a couple of other stories, including perhaps where we began this show today, how we found a way to link a moment from the motion picture version of The Exorcist and the Minnesota Vikings quarterback quandary. Stay tuned. Did you happen to see a video of the fight that broke out during the where did the Washington Commanders play? Is it Northwest Stadium, I think it's called?
Is that what it's called now?
They hosted the Bears, the second of the 2 Monday night games last night. And there's video of huge brawl that broke out. Now, again, generally speaking, alcohol has something to do with it. But, I mean, we're talking about one that, guys they're punching each other in the face.
Yeah.
It's one of those kind of things.
Yeah.
Back of the neck. One guy's shirt is off. He's getting mauled, pulled over some chairs. And there's about, I'd say it looks like maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe about 8 people involved. Security it takes security a while to show up. They finally, indeed, get there. We see, unfortunately, we see more of these now because of the video age in which we live. But
right.
This was more than, like pushing and shoving kind that we see a lot, or people screaming at each other. It's just vicious. Well, I guess it's a stupid question. What prompts it? Somebody says something to somebody.
Yep.
And they've had, 4 pops too many, and then they get agitated, and then somebody maybe tries to throw a punch, and somebody else takes offense, and before you know it. And the game's going on at this point, too, because you can see in the background, there's fans who aren't even paying attention. They don't even seem aware of what's going on sort of to their left and behind them, because they're watching the game.
I know.
They're actually paying attention to the game. Just the level of madness is...
I'll never understand it.
I don't either. It makes no sense.
I'll never understand it.
Kevin,
but we don't have man cards. We don't man up.
No, we don't have man cards. In
a moment like that, we would not man up.
No, we've been proven. That's been proven over and over again. For me, it's the clogs, it's the candles, it's the coolers. That's the trifecta that forever disqualifies me.
Yeah.
I have never had a chance even to get man card probationary status on that basis, correct? Even though I really don't drink even coolers anymore. I don't remember the last time I wore a pair of clogs, and I don't light candles as often as I did, although I still do.
You haven't lit the candles very often.
No, I haven't. Well, usually I feel like it's a winter thing mainly. And looking outside,
I know, now 'tis the
doesn't
season.
seem that far off.
I had my first soup of the winter today.
Did you?
Because it was freezing.
What did you go with? But see, I'll eat soup in the summer.
I will too, but it just felt like
right.
I was standing outside for gopher practice.
Tomato soup?
No, I went with some chicken wild rice from the downtown Lunds and Byerly's on my way back from campus.
Can't go wrong there.
I was getting a salad, mixing one in. I know you're happy for me.
That's really good.
And I said, I feel like I need some soup. I got to warm up.
Did you get a cup or a bowl?
I just went cup because I got the salad.
That's very modest of you. That's smart. Yeah.
I wanted the bowl.
I'll remind Mace tomorrow that you got a cup of soup, not a bowl.
And a salad.
You got a bowl? How big was the bowl?
How big was the cup?
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
Yeah.
He'll be in person tomorrow.
He's in person? He's leaving Fargo for good?
Oh, I'm sure he'll be back soon, but he's not going to be there tomorrow. He's going to be here tomorrow.
Fair enough.
So buckle up.
The power of completions. That's the theme of today's program. As we quote the head coach, KOC, this was, I think, a comment from yesterday, and he was talking about the what J.J. McCarthy might have been watching while Carson Wentz performed his miracles, including 9 for 9 when it mattered in the second of the 2 games overseas. One of the things that he, meaning J.J., took away from watching Carson play was the power of completion. So I started the program with the power of completions compels you, because I've never heard KOC put it quite that way. Now, it's not alliterative, I'll grant you, but the power of completion sounds so KOC, like there's power to completions. He's not wrong. And I hope that, quite frankly, any quarterback you root for would learn that lesson. The power of completions should compel you to not be afraid to just throw short, get rid of the ball quickly, and don't worry if you're not getting the fancy style points or you're not getting play of the day on ESPN. Don't let that bother you, because there is some truth to the fact that you can bore a defense to death.
Definitely.
With that kind of execution, right? And
pitching and catching.
And eventually it can mean sooner or later it's going to open some stuff up, and then you might make a 32-yard completion as well. All those things are very important, and I thought of it because of the I mentioned yesterday. I reread The Exorcist, just wrapped it up, and then we talked about the movie that the book was based on, and one of the most powerful scenes. Do you have it? Can you find it again?
I have to. It'll take me a second.
Just take a second. No hurry. We can get it. We have time to waste. One of the more powerful moments from that film. It's an oldie, by the way, for sure. I think the screenplay. The guy who wrote the book wrote the screenplay. William Peter Blatty. I think he won an Oscar for it as well. And in the movie, not the book, the 2 priests are trying. They're performing the exorcism on poor Linda Blair, who's been possessed by a demon. And at one point, they're in there doing their damnedest, and it's not easy, man, because they got to, speaking of soup, they gotta dodge the split pea soup that's supposed to be vomit, but looks like split pea soup, coming from projectile vomiting all directions, all kinds of other stuff that she's doing or she's not doing, but the demon in her is doing. And so then she starts showing off and levitates the entire bed she's strapped to all the way up to the ceiling, at which point the 2 priests, trying to get the situation under control, they offer this.
That the power of Christ compels you! The power of Christ compels you! The power of Christ compels you!
That's it. I think they said it a bunch more times. So now we say to J.J. McCarthy, the power of completions compels you whenever you do get back. And even as long as Carson Wentz is playing quarterback, that should be the mantra. Just complete passes, man. Keep the chains moving. Keep the ball away from the opposition, even if it bores them to death. If you're moving down the field, nobody will be disappointed. I really don't think anybody will be upset, including JJ, as in Justin Jefferson, even if he's not always getting balls 32 yards down the field.
I know that you only have a 1-hour sermons because it's a noon kick.
That's correct.
On Sunday. So I think to make amends for that, because you've also had some Sundays off because of the international deal, why don't you offer to do the Greg Coleman pregame preach, which we still do during.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't do it right before kickoff
right.
like we used to. But isn't this a Greg Coleman pregame preach?
It is, actually. It'd be great.
The power of completions compel you, young JJ.
That's it.
The young lion today. He would have it. He'd be ready for it. Maybe just text him.
I might text him. He would be absolutely able to build something out of that.
Totally.
And it would be because he can speak in that grand style. It'd be perfect.
That's the whole point of the preach.
Right out of the pulpit. I mean, that's it. Yeah, that's a great idea.
It's the whole point of the preach, so I think he's got his idea.
At least he can incorporate it into something larger that he might be doing. Let's wrap up. Let's take a break. We'll wrap up the program. I'll remind you who we got a hold of today and who we didn't, as well as prepare you for a night of hockey on the Fan and what we have coming up tomorrow.
Show wrap brought to you by American Pressure, commercial-grade pressure washer since 1975.
It's the Bumper to Bumper Show Wrap.
Big night tonight. Immediately following us on the Fan, it is a very special edition of Vikings country. Can you provide us with your pregame research, any details?
They're in Delano.
Okay.
It is Isaiah Rogers.
Oh, it's a nice
Zayraj.
Nice.
Zayraj is the guest.
Okay, that's
immediately
outstanding.
Following us.
Wild and the North... I call them the North Stars. I did do it. Wild Stars tonight. It's a late game because it's the second of a doubleheader on ESPN. So pregame show will start at 8:15. All of the action right here on the flagship FM 100.3. You can also get us, of course, and the game through the very free iHeartRadio app. Start of a 5-game road trip. The next 4 games, Louis will be doing TV analysis. He joined us earlier, and you can podcast our discussion with him. He joined at about 5:30. We also were joined by phone today by Kevin Seifert. That was at 3:30. Ben Leber, Nacho Leber, joined at about 4:45. So plenty of Vikings conversation pretty much throughout this show. Mace is back in our studio tomorrow. Kessler, I'm assuming, is here as well when he will join at about 5:30. I will add, do yourself a favor and take a watch of the Montreal Canadiens tribute video to the late Kenny Dryden.
Okay.
Your guy Fallness retweeted it. That's how I came upon it. It's absolutely magnificently done. They couldn't have done a better job with it. And again, you can be casual hockey fan, you can be hardcore hockey fan. You don't even have to be a hockey fan. Just if you're human, I think you'll be very impressed with the tribute video. And Fallness reminds us that, you know, when Dryden died, we were able to find, actually with his help, as I recall it, video, or I should say audio, of the time he joined Louis and me. This was, you know, one of those Legends with Louis.
Yeah, during the pandemic episodes of the Louis visit. And Dryden was tremendous. And he talked about the famous or infamous, depending on how you want to look at it, penalty shot goal by your guy, Tommy Reed. That's right.
A funny story. And this today, 54 years to the day, 10/14/1971 was the day it happened. So you can't make that up. So a good get by a good history lesson by Mr. Fallness, and an outstanding job by whoever put together the Montreal Canadiens video as well. We don't have any snow in the forecast, do we? In fact, I thought it was supposed to be 70 by the end of the week. And Friday night, I think it's going to be nice again, isn't it?
Not that nice, is it?
Oh, maybe they've changed the forecast again.
It's going to rain for a few days. I'm worried about today and tomorrow.
Are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all you can. Why look past that is what you're saying.
It's supposed to rain on Friday, too. 70, but 50% of rain.
You might have to wear a slicker, but at least you won't have to have long underwear.
I'll be ready.
Talk to you tomorrow at 3.